Thursday, March 28th, 2024. I was completely convinced today was Friday and was expecting today's episode of The View to be a pre recorded thing. Um, uh, Sometimes Whoopi comes out and she goes, oh, nice crowd. I feel like I already know you because I feel like they already taped an episode beforehand. So, anyway, who knows if they're working on Good Friday or not? I'm not. But that's no different than any other day like these days. They had a discussion this morning on the View about Lara Trump being the co-chair of the new co-chair of the RNC. We've spent 2 days talking about Ronna McDaniel, who was the former chair, who got squeezed out by Trump, so that he could install his daughter-in-law, and the RNC could funnel money to pay for his legal fees. Um, they don't have a lot of money. The Apparently, the last statistic I saw is that Biden is out fundraising him 2 to 1, um, which is great for us as long as they spend it wisely. Um, they need to be the ground game. It just I have a hard time, other than getting yourself on the ballot. I just have a hard time believing that knocking on doors actually changes anybody's minds. Um, because people are so have it so ingrained in their head. They need better advertising on television. They need better um, uh, overall messaging. But it, whatever. The Lara Trump being the RNC co-chair, they don't have a lot of money. They are spending money on his legal fees, and I think Sarah Haynes said it, that it doesn't leave a lot of money for the down ballot races, which, quite frankly, yay, good for us. And the Democrats should be capitalizing on that. There's I think something like 18 races that are going in Republican seats that are going uncontested by the Democrats. We need to run in all of them. Um, there was a special election in Alabama or Missouri, was it? Some super red state, and a Democrat won the special election into the state Senate. Basically, she ran on a Democrat woman won, basically running on reproductive rights. I don't know that you can underestimate that as sort of a single issue voting motivator. I know there's still a lot of issue with young voters and everything that's going on in Israel and Gaza. We aren't handling that very well. Um, but uh, there, that it is a tricky political situation. Morally, it's not, but politically, it is. Um, so so this whole thing with the RNC, it does boggle my mind that people are like, so it's his daughter, and Joy makes a joke. Oh, he puts his family in charge of anything, and it ruins it, and it is true. And it does not really bode well for the RNC. He is going to gut their finances. He's going to gut the Republican Party of money, but the Republican Party deserves it. Like this is what they've asked for. Um, and I just it you know the fact that everyone's just like, she's in charge. Um, because if it was the other way around, if Hillary Clinton had installed Chelsea's husband um into the DNC, I I think the news coverage on that would overtake everything 24 hours a day. Um, the the and I guess it's just sort of what's the point? I guess the assumption is that it's wrong, but I feel like we should still be pointing out how fucking corrupt that is. Um, and I guess they tried to on the View. Is it? But is asking the question: Did you believe in the 2020? Did you believe the 2020 election was fair? Does seem discriminatory, but it's fine. As the more that they do to implode themselves, there is the MAGA base is the MAGA base is the MAGA base. It's not going to grow. So if they're just going to focus on that, um, then they're not going to win. Um, and Amy Alyssa Farrah Griffin was talking about sort of bipartisanship. I guess the next topic was about RFK Jr. and whether or not he'd be a spoiler. Um, and he is probably going to be a spoiler in some degree if he can get on the ballot. He picked this billionaire woman as his running mate because she can help share the cost of getting him on the ballot, which is a very expensive process. That takes a lot of signatures. It takes a lot of legal fees to get yourself on the ballot as an independent or a third party. So it does take a lot of money, and he needs her money. Um, and she probably won't put up much of a fuss politically. She's also Elon Musk's ex girlfriend. um, After she dated some other billionaire. Anyway, uh, so this and she was talking about the sort of bipartisan idea that people would go to drinks after fighting on the Hill with each campaign staffers and aides and people that were that work in Washington, how we disagree but then we'd go have lunch together, and or have drinks together. And I don't think they've understood how far the brainwashing of this country has come, and it's been much more um, the vocal on the far right side, um, who have hated that the Democrats have been demonized to them for decades, and so that libtard is the which is a terrible expression is one of the current um, ways to disparage us, and they've turned woke into a negative term, which I think is hilarious. Um, but like hating the coastal elites and the big city people, and that's been sort of a staple of the Republican base for decades. So you can sit in your little bubble and say it never used to be like this. Yes, it was. Has it gotten worse? 100%. But a lot of that has to do with the liberal side of things are like no longer saying, you know what, I am going to put up with you having a disagreement about whether or not I have the same rights as you. We're done. Um, and it really came to light when Trump allowed them to say their vitriol as hard as they wanted. Um, I've said this a million times. It's always been about the bigotry. He lets them openly feel good and feel comfortable openly expressing their own bigotry. Um, and when it got that far, when they were no longer afraid of, you don't want to disrupt the liberals, you don't want to get in an argument, they just decided it was okay, then it stopped being okay. And that's where the divide happened. The hard divide that's happened in the last what 6 years. So and then then they became COVID deniers and vaccine deniers, and Robert Kennedy Jr. does deny that he's a vaccine denier. He will say over and over again, I think some live vaccines are productive, but these new ones don't work. Um, so he will, I don't want to say die on that hill because he's a Kennedy, and that's a weird expression to say about a Kennedy. But he will continue to say that he's not a vaccine denier. Yet he is. When it's convenient for his thought process. And this whole idea that somehow he's going to take votes away from Joe Biden is just ridiculous. Look at what he talks about. I see the people who are promoting him online. They're wackadoodles. They're people who either wouldn't vote or would be voting for Trump. It's that whole, even though he's a Kennedy, he's an outsider. Um, it's 100% people that would be voting for Trump. Um, Maybe 95%. I just have a hard time believing that anybody, um, uh, who if if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. weren't in the race, they would probably just not vote. They're the people that are like, I can't tell the difference between Biden and Trump. I don't want to vote for either one of them. And they probably wouldn't just wouldn't go vote. is there enough of them that would go vote and go vote for Biden that he'll be a spoiler for Biden? I highly doubt it. And I think the closer we get to the election, the more the divide in this is going to become clear. But I think it's imperative that they still message getting out to vote is the most important thing. Don't rely on a poll number to say who is going to be the next president. And I don't understand why people aren't interested or engaged in voting and don't want to vote. I love voting. And it's not just about the president. You pay attention to your local races, your representatives. The whole thing is important. These are the people that are making decisions about where you live and what you can and cannot do. Um, and I guess maybe when you know when your rights have never been on the ballot, it might not seem that important to you. But when they have been most of your adult life, you pay attention and you want to make sure that the right people are making the right decisions. So, anywho, uh, it's not Friday. I did plant 25 tiny spruce trees yesterday. They were smaller than I thought I bought. Um, because I have about 50 other ones that are like 3 times the size of the ones that I bought. And I only planted them last year. So they must not have had the larger size that I wanted. And I ordered smaller ones. Who knew? But anyway, it's next generation screening for the woods around me. I want my property to say, call first. Anyway, I guess we'll see tomorrow.